And in the meantime, of course, Tony Abbott made all those domestic visits I suggested. He was in Christmas Island, on Christmas Island, when a couple of things happened. I think the collapse of the East Timor option occurred finally, and there were protests at Villawood, which have now ended this morning, as I understand it, but there were protests there, and then Chris Bowen had to come up with a temporary protection visa sort of fallback situation.
The government's just bleeding to death on this. It is absolutely poisonous. And the other thing too, Barry, is for those people who are pushing the cause of these people who are held in detention, they are doing them no favours by encouraging some of this behaviour. Now, that's not true of all of these groups, but those images of the people on top of that centre while it burned went down enormously badly. I've done a little bit of polling of some of the members around the electorate. This stuff is being raised by people unprompted. And it's really, really grating with them.
So what did you make of the government's response, Jerry?
Well, I don't know what they can do. I mean, they're talking about there'll be criminal charges if crimes have been committed, if police lay charges. Governments obviously don't lay charges. But I don't know what else they can do. I mean, they've now got close to 7,000 people in detention. Now, in the whole of the Fraser government, this is often forgotten, the number of people who came unlawfully in the whole of the Fraser government was 2,000 over 7 years. They've got now 7,000 at one time. And the problem with East Timor has come up, which is always going to be the problem, because the reluctance of the East Timorese government was the concern that if we built a detention centre in East Timor, the people outside of it, the East Timorese, would say, why are these people in detention? Why do they have better conditions than we have outside? So that was never going to fly. The government won't talk about Nauru, which I think they probably should talk about Nauru, but they won't. So they're caught. And I also noticed, I mean, I agree with what Chris said about the advocates, but I also noticed that a lot of those academics and lawyers, barristers, who virtually equated John Howard with fascism over the way he handled detainees, and I'm sympathetic to asylum seekers, that those people have gone remarkably silent.
But surely the government's woes in this area are somewhat of their own making also. They've not had any real consistent line through the Kevin Rudd and then the Julia Gillard-led regimes. The processing, or the moratorium on processing of applications from Sri Lanka and Afghanistan clogged the system. So, I mean, the number of people that were held in detention since that moratorium was placed on the processing of those people, you know,
so there's no conviction. If you go one way or the other, you either argue strenuously from the beginning and try and put the thing into perspective and tell people that you're really overreacting to all of this, but they tend to try and meet the opposition halfway.
Well, they're walking both sides of a very difficult, it's
and they do on so many issues, and isn't this the problem? They're trying to play left and right and losing on both sides on this, and the problem for them with Villawood is it's